All right, Dan, good to be here with you.
Nice to meet you, Alim.
Yes,
This is
nice to
fantastic.
meet you.
Yeah.
Um, three kids, new father of three.
Yes, I am.
Favorite kid?
Oh my God. Ryan.
Ryan, your
Yeah, yeah,
newest?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Newest by far.
he doesn't
He
cry too
slept through the
much.
night over the weekend.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say
What's
Ryan.
what's your what's your fatherly responsibility?
At night?
At night, you're the night guy.
No. At night, I have no
None.
real responsibility
Yeah.
except for the other two.
Okay. Okay.
But I sleep, and
Yeah.
then my wife does everything at
Yeah.
this point.
That's
So
that's that.
eventually, there's going to be non-breastfeeding, and that's where I come in.
That's where you come
So
in.
yeah,
Well, I'm about 10 years older than you, and nothing's changed. That was
yeah,
my
no,
role
not a
either.
thing,
Nothing,
not a thing.
nothing much. Well, we're here. You get a break from your kids and your family for a
Yep.
couple of days. We're here in New York. Um, Look, you more than anybody at Egen are in front of more clients. You're in the field. You're talking to pretty much everybody all the time. There's a lot of hype in the market about what's going on with AI, about what the big trends are, the impact it's going to have. Just from your conversations, what are companies and clients actually doing with AI, and help separate the hype? What's the biggest impact that you're seeing in the market right now?
Yeah, we see a lot of it. There's a lot of confusion. A lot of times I think AI hype starts with like a tool. And I think that there's a lot of confusion because there's consumer tools that now have the enterprise version. So you have these consumers are coming in with pre-baked expectations of a tool that it just doesn't come to life when they're in the real world. You think about search, right? It's so easy to go to google.com, but at the same time, enterprise search is a totally different beast. And so you have this like consumer expectation that's very, very difficult to actually realize in the enterprise. Where we do see a difference is when a company has a risk appetite and it's coming from the business and they understand this is not just a trend that's going away, right? This is not something that in 2 years everyone's going to say, hey, remember that fad that happened? So when I bring up risk appetite, it's like the executives that know, like, we better get on board or we're going to be left behind. Maybe they don't even know what that means, but they just want to get started. The analysis paralysis at organizations, when we see that, like to us, that's disqualified. Like we shouldn't be pursuing that with Google because no one can be successful at the end of the day. So I think they got to have the right risk
And the
appetite.
companies that get it, the ones that you admire the most or that we work with the most, what's the prize that they have their eye on? Is it better decisions? Is it productivity?
Yeah.
What's the prize you're seeing that the visionaries are seeking out?
You definitely see better productivity. Can we do what we're doing faster, better, cheaper? You don't actually hear a lot about like laying people off, like the fallacy of like everyone's going to lose their jobs. We don't hear that very often. Maybe they don't want to talk about it, but the reality is it's more of how do we make our people more productive in what they're doing. And we hear it at the engineering level, but then also at the business user level. So to me, it's all about productivity, just in the general sense.
Yeah. I look at you. So I've been at Egen for the past 5 months. I
5 months?
Yeah, it's been 5 months. I look at you as a founder and a visionary, and a lot of your DNA is in the company. What gives us as Egeners the right to solve these problems? What makes us different than other folks out there? What's your thesis on what you have to be to help these organizations transform?
You have to be a challenger, one. So a lot of us have gone through like challenger training. And you need to push to a level of discomfort while being respectful. And then you need the execution capabilities that I used to say engineering capabilities, but now it's becoming the change enablement, change management plus engineering that has to be there. So I think you have to challenge your clients to think bigger. You have to challenge your partners, such as Google, to think bigger, and really look at this as a true modernization, not just a single workload. And that takes some guts. You need to know what you're talking about. You need to be willing to challenge people and make it slightly uncomfortable. I think that's our culture. Our culture like wants it to be a debate, wants to have a conversation. And then we were able to back it up. If you can't back it up, then talk is just cheap.
So I heard three themes. I heard courage.
Yeah.
I actually heard empathy.
Yeah.
And vision and leadership.
You said it way better than I did, so that's good.
It's fun being the interviewer.
Yeah.
The other thing, when I was looking at what organizations I wanted to be a part of, ecosystem and partner had a big role to play in the AI transformation. Gone are the days where technology, I think, can just be transformed with, just, lines of code.
Yeah.
You have to pick your platform. And we've chosen Google.
Yeah.
We've chosen Google and we go to market with Google. Why? And how is Google accelerating the vision that we see for our clients? Why Google? Why is that differentiated for us?
Well, I've been in the Google ecosystem for 10 years, so I am very biased and skewed towards Google. But if I look at the challengers, right? So originally in hyperscalers, I would answer that from the context of Google is a platform company. Their DNA is building it from within, open source. And so when you look at their platform, it's really well thought out to be able to solve a lot of different problems, and they're not siloed. Versus the Microsoft, there's some acquisitions that's happened, and the clients will tell us it feels a little less connected to one another. I think Google has a great vision of how do you bring together the entirety of the platform to really drive the business outcome and what they're doing. When I then look at the foundational models, the Anthropics, the OpenAI, Google has more data than anyone else in the world, and they've been doing this for a really, really long time, right? I also think they're going to do it in a manner that's good for the world. I think they're going to be thinking about the end users, because nobody does end users better than Google in the world, right? So when bringing that heritage, that DNA to the enterprise, the knock on Google was not enterprise ready. They don't understand the enterprise. Like, you don't hear that anymore, right? But no one ever challenged that they had the best technology in the world. So now that they have both, and that the world has now gotten to this familiar point where the number one use case of how should Gen AI help me is Google.com. There's no better company in the world you want to be tied to.
And for me, when I was looking at platforms, Google said, search was all about data. And so the leaders in AI need data, and AI is about data plus processing plus science. And
I say processing, you say processing.
It's the Canadian, the Canadian me. Now, you and I spend a lot of time talking about, as much as we can geek out and talk about technology and platforms and everything else, we spend most of our time talking about what's the impact that the work we're doing is going to have on our clients. How is AI going to have impact? You hear about clients talking about, we spent X, Y, and Z token prices. We're laser focused at Egen on delivering ROI, making sure the use cases we work on have a material business impact. How do we do that? What's important? How do we build that into an engineering organization, and how do we bring that to our clients?
Yeah, we like to say we are your at production scale partner. We're not your POC partner. And going back to the idea that we challenge both the partners, that is Google, as well as our end clients. When we think about a use case, we want to get very quickly to, is it a good one? And we might disqualify ourselves from getting revenue because of that. But you have to challenge and really think through, is the impact there? Is it worthwhile? So when you combine kind of that challenger mentality, to have the courage, as you said, the empathy for the end user, and then the execution chops, you really focus on the right things. And it sounds simple. It's just very hard to do. When someone's saying, I think I have a really good use case, they want to write you a check, but they haven't thought this through all the way. You have to step back for a second and say, hey, what are we trying to accomplish before we go forward? And then I do think our platform engineering heritage, thinking through the entirety of the problem, allows us to not just prove out that the business case is there, but understand it's going to scale as well.
One of the old organizations I used to work with had a value that you keep saying that comes up, and it's unconditional honesty. It's being unconditionally honest with your clients, and I think we bring that to life in a good way, and that has a
I like that. We should use that, and we should talk to our CMO.
Yeah, but unconditional honesty, we'll build that in. We're 700 people, so we're not small. We have scale, but we're not 10,000 people or 50,000 people. So we can't do everything. What are we really great at helping Google do? So Google's got a big ambition, and there's some challenges that they have with their clients that we're great at. What are the 3 or 4 things that we're just knock it out of the park?
We have an intimate level of their platform like no one else in the world. We have people who have been around this ecosystem for 10 plus years. Some of the early days of Google Cloud that have used it, who have solved problems. But if you look at the clients that we've had going back the last 5-6 years, when Google runs into a massive problem, the largest mainframe takeout at Sabre, Like we were their trusted partner through all of that, right? So not only do we have an intimate knowledge of their platform, but we bring just a ton of battle wounds and scars that we can help them see things that they don't see yet, right? So when I think of like as a Google FSR, a salesperson comes to me, what do we bring? We see things they don't, and we help them navigate the sale better than any other partner in the world.
Tell me one more thing, because I think we're being asked to
Okay.
to wrap up. We're at 2 hours and 59 minutes.
Yeah.
Talk about adoption. So that's something that I think in the past few months, we've helped Google do some very large deployments. But where in other cases, it was difficult to get users adopt. I think in our case, we're at 90% plus adoption.
Yes.
How does an engineering firm bring that to life?
Yeah. So one is you have to nail the technical implementation of it with the user in mind. So I think we've done a fantastic job. When you want an activation, we have the technical implementation playbook to go out and ensure that we're successful. That's one. Two, for the weekly active users, we understand what the actual user journeys are. We've built amazing tools like Egen to allow for building that prompt library that makes sure that the end users are using the tool the way Google intended. When you combine those two things, we give Google exactly what they're looking for, activation and the weekly active users that they're looking for, which means it's a tool that's working, that's bringing business value.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.